Bad news. Election deniers are ruining democracy. Welcome to What Now with Leeja Miller, where every Wednesday I break down an important current event, and today we're talking election deniers gone rogue. Election deniers in key swing states hold important election official positions and are poised to refuse to certify election results at the county and state level this November. And this matters because if a county election official refuses to certify the results of their county's vote tally, then the state can't certify either, leading to election chaos this November. Let's talk about which states will be most affected, the recent drama in Georgia, and what we can all do to secure our elections.
Thank you to my partner on today's video, PDS Debt. Credit card debt sucks. I've talked about this before. I've been buried under more credit card debt than I care to admit, and I can tell you that finally paying it off feels amazing, but it takes work because getting into credit card debt is really easy, but getting out? The system's set up so we don't. If you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, collections, or medical bills, you need to check out PDS Debt. PDS provides a service to match you with debt solutions tailored to your financial situation, and they have a team of people ready to help you with your debt journey. PDS Debt is offering a free debt analysis. It only takes 30 seconds. Head over to pdsdebt.com/Miller to get your free debt assessment today. You'll receive a full breakdown on how to save on interest each month and the quickest way to take care of your debt. Everyone with over $10,000 in eligible debt qualifies, and there's no minimum credit score required. If you're making payments every month on your debt, but your balances just won't seem to go down, this program is for you. Stop waiting and start saving. Take advantage of PDS Debt's free debt analysis just for my viewers. Go to pdsdebt.com/Miller to complete the quick and easy debt assessment in just 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/Miller. Thanks, PDS Debt.
So let's zoom in. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, also known as CREW, just released a report naming and shaming 35 election officials in virtually every swing state in the union that have already refused to certify election results in the past and could do so again in 2024. And here are the states: Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Okay, got it? Okay, so let's back up. Prior to 2020, the tactic of not certifying the election results was virtually unheard of. It didn't happen. Local election officials were just technocratic nerds happy to be there and do their job to serve civically in their local elections. Their duty is not discretionary. They're not choosing anything. Their job is to faithfully report on the results of their elections to their state, so the state can then report their results to the VP of the United States, the President of the Senate, who then certifies the election for the country in the case of a presidential election. Certification became the big focus in 2020 when Trump and his cronies realized that his base is so stupid that if you just say the election is rigged, they'll just go with it. So the next logical step for conspiracy theorists was to go to the source and target election workers who've become the target of increased political violence across the country. I made a whole video about it. So the big lie spread, making people think that it was these election workers who were tampering with the ballots and then certifying the results. And if they could be stopped, then we can really get to the bottom of this, okay? And when they couldn't stop it at the local level, they tried to stop it at the state level. That's why you saw Trump calling election officials and secretaries of state and asking them to find votes or refuse to certify. They also filed lawsuit after lawsuit trying to challenge the results of elections in each state, and lawsuit after lawsuit was thrown out. Then they tried to stop it at the national level through Pence, and when that didn't happen, they tried to literally stage a coup. Since then, they've gotten organized, and they've placed their people wherever they can, at the local level, where no one really pays attention, to throw as many wrenches into the process as possible, hoping that one will make the whole machine implode. And they've had practice over the last 4 years. Since 2020, more than 30 county officials across the country have voted to deny or delay certifying election results, citing false claims of voter fraud or irregularities. And because this is just a technical process that also seems kind of like a black box for people on the outside, once one person calls the results into question, that's enough to get others on board and sow widespread doubt in the election as a whole, even if the initial claims of irregularities or issues were based on literally nothing, which they always are. For example, Couy Griffin, the former county official in New Mexico, who a state court removed from office for engaging in the January 6th insurrection, stated, and I quote, "My vote to remain a no isn't based on any evidence. It's not based on any facts. It's only based on my gut feeling and my own intuition." And that's enough to create widespread doubt in the very foundation of our democracy. Because the bottom line is that Republicans aren't winning popular votes, and they know they can't. When more people show up to vote, statistically Republicans always fare worse because their policies are generally pretty unpopular with the electorate if we, the electorate, actually show up to vote. And so they want to do everything in their power to delegitimize the votes that they know they can't win anyway. That's why Trump is telling his followers that they won't have to vote at all soon, and that he doesn't actually even need their votes anyway this November. He's said it multiple times.
For 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You gotta get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
We don't need votes. I tell my people, I don't need any votes. We got all the votes we need. I don't need votes. We don't need votes. We got more votes than anybody's ever had. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes.
Because he knows that there's a larger scheme to delegitimize the whole thing so that we can move ever closer to Trump's wet dream of becoming the Viktor Orban of the Western Hemisphere. And that's Hungary's dictatorial prime minister, where elections are just put on for show at this point. And that's what's happening in Venezuela right now, where Maduro clearly lost but is declaring victory and jailing thousands of people and outright killing others to keep his place. That is what happens when you have one man who refuses to cede power and an election that has been thrown into question by that very same man. You've got chaos and violence. And I'm not saying that we are in this far gone at this point. I'm not trying to fearmonger you. I'm just saying that this is the end result if we keep going down this path. We do, however, have some safeguards in place. The Crew report that I mentioned earlier lays out available legal remedies. Those include emergency court orders to compel compliance with election law. These are remedies for bad actors, bad election officials, or criminal charges to punish and deter misconduct, and procedures to legally remove officials from their county positions. State laws are clear that certification is not discretionary. It's not up for debate or an opportunity for election officials to protest the election practices that they don't like, or even to investigate voter fraud. That is not their jobs, period. There is a time and a place to lodge a complaint of voter fraud and let it play out within the existing processes, which include recounts, audits, hearings before the state election board, or bringing the contest to court and suing. That's not what election officials are there to do, and the certification process is simply a check meant to ensure that each county is accounted for in the overall state vote. It's simply, did you complete the verification checklist that is outlined in the state's election law? Check yes or no. That's their job. Period. But the fact that states have had to seek court orders in order to compel county officials to follow the law means that the election in November could be up in the air for days after the polls close, leading to court battles and giving a lot of time for election deniers to plant false rumors of rigged votes. This could also lead to tons of votes getting thrown out, which would disenfranchise a massive amount of legitimate voters. Because reminder that none of the allegations of voter fraud in 2020 have been substantiated in court. None of them. The actual individual cases where a fraudulent vote has been found in the past are incredibly rare and usually due to human error. A Brennan Center study found fraud incidence rates to be between 0.0003% to 0.0025%. A study by the Washington Post found 31 credible instances of impersonation fraud between 2000 and 2014 out of over 1 billion votes cast during that same period. Hardly enough to change the results of an election, and certainly not the widespread issue that election deniers claim it to be. The Brennan Center, in fact, compiled a whole list of all the studies debunking voter fraud claims. I'll link it below. But I'm gonna be honest, none of those studies really matter to election deniers because by being an election denier, you are inherently prone to falling for conspiracies, so you likely believe that the mainstream media and every think tank that isn't the Heritage Foundation is in on the conspiracy too. So one random guy at a county election office in bumfuck Georgia can make up a single piece of evidence claiming it proves widespread fraud, and you're fucking on board, brother. So it's hard to know how to save those people, because as that one election denying elected official I quoted stated, they're going based on raw gut instinct. Data doesn't matter. An investigation in Rolling Stone where they searched through social media profiles of hundreds of election officials in 6 swing states found nearly 100 officials that have openly expressed belief in lies about the 2020 election and skepticism about the upcoming election in November. Rolling Stone partnered with American Doom, which as far as I can tell is the name of a Substack ran by a single independent journalist named Justin Glaw. And that list of nearly 100 local election officials is hidden behind a paywall on Justin's Substack, which I think is a little slimy. It's a little slimy, Justin. I know it's taken years of work to compile the list, But why did you compile it in the first place if not to provide a public service? Yes, you deserve to be compensated for your work, but what's the fucking point of your work if we can't access it unless we pay you money? I don't know. There are other ways to make money. Release the report, Justin. So I would suggest instead checking out the 𝗓 report, which is free to the public and lists at least 32 of those officials and gives detailed state-by-state analysis. And if you're in a key swing state, again, that's Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, do some digging into your county's election or canvassing board. Find some names and check out their social media. Give them a ring-a-ding-ding to ask them how they feel about certifying election results and remind them that it's not discretionary. Don't be hostile, be courteous, but direct. They need to know that we're watching. And hey, if you're still watching, drop a comment below with a little heart emoji. Commenting is the single best way you can help this channel and support this work. It's free, it's easy, and it's greatly appreciated. Thanks. I want to focus specifically on Georgia right now because they have really lost the fucking plot and are well on their way to protecting election officials' right to question the results of the elections, which could mean that Georgia can't be certified, which could fuck up the entire national vote count in a race as close as it's looking like this one will be in November. So, like I've said, in most states, despite these election deniers' best efforts, there are safeguards in place already to ensure that the election results are certified. In some states, courts can step in at the request of a voter seeking what's called a writ of mandamus, which allows a court to step in and legally compel a government official to fulfill their duties. And if the official refuses to comply, they can be removed from their position and even face criminal penalties. In North Carolina in 2022, 2 election officials were removed using this process. So that's good. We're not in a total freefall. But in Georgia, they're trying to take away even those basic safeguards. In July, the Georgia State Election Board, which has 5 members, 3 of which are election-denying Trump simps, held an illegal meeting to pass new election policies that would allow for partisan poll watchers to be present at polling places and a bunch of other spooky shit. The meeting was illegal because they held it when they knew that 2 of the members who don't align with Trump wouldn't be available and without providing notice to the public. They were sued 6 days later by American Oversight, a nonprofit watchdog organization that enforces the public's right to government records. And after the lawsuit was filed, the board withdrew the new rules. And this demonstrates how important it is that the public gives a shit and shows up and pays attention and keeps an eye on these voting boards. There's a reason their meetings have to be public, even though much of the public doesn't attend or know about them. But the ones who do attend have louder voices and can actually make their opinions heard and hold officials accountable. They are public servants. I think they forget that. But usually the people attending these meetings are election deniers. The rest of us are a bit too checked out for my liking, frankly. And in Georgia, that illegal attempt at fucking up the rules last month wasn't the end of it. Last week, on August 6th, the Georgia State Election Board held a meeting where everyone was present and it was open to the public, in which they approved a new rule that expands the role and authority of county election boards in the certification process. Reminder that certification typically across the country and for over a century has been a ministerial role that is not discretionary. It's not up for debate. The election official isn't making any choices. They are confirming that the vote happened, was counted, and all official processes were followed, period. Well, this new rule that the Georgia State Election Board approved redefines the certification process to include reasonable inquiry into whether the results are complete and accurate. And so with all the background I've just given you, it should be clear why they changed that language. It opens the door for ministerial elections officials to inquire into the accuracy of election results. Reasonable inquiry, just legally speaking, is vague at best, and it gives vast discretion and leeway to election officials who have never been meant to play any role in choosing who wins the elections. Again, they are there to certify the results, period. These 3 Georgia election board officials that have been on your screen are actively trying to undermine the system of elections in this country. Janice Johnston, Rick Jaffares, and Janelle King are a stain on public servants everywhere and should be absolutely fucking ashamed of themselves. We have other methods to challenge the actual results of the elections, but those methods are insufficient for election deniers because they don't work, because the deniers have no evidence, which is required for legitimate challenges. But their challenges aren't legitimate, so they need other means. Now, this new rule is blatantly against Georgia state law and will be challenged in court, but it's an example of how far Trump and his allies' plan to delegitimize our elections has actually spread. We're at the state board of elections. This isn't just individuals at the county level anymore. They are much more organized and have a lot of lawyers and rich donors funding their efforts. The bottom line is this. We all need to be very concerned about this because it is a sneaky, slimy tactic that Republicans are betting will fly under the radar because we're not paying attention. Don't give that to them. The legitimacy of our elections moving forward lies in the balance, okay? But what can we do? Other than vote, of course, which should be obvious at this point. I have a list of 5 things for you, okay? Are you ready? Number 1, speak out. Speak out on this, share on your social media, get your favorite creators to denounce election-denying officials on their platforms. Tag them, ask them to do it, especially if they live in one of those states. Contact the Secretary of State in your state and ask them whether they are explicitly telling their elections officials that they do not have discretion in their role. And if they do attempt to illegitimately interfere with certifying the election results, there will be consequences. If secretaries of state do this explicitly, then elections officials can't claim that they didn't know they couldn't do this later in court. Point your Secretary of State towards this CREW report I've been mentioning, and it's linked below for more information, and especially do this if you live in Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, or Michigan. Number 3, volunteer as a poll worker, sometimes called election judges, so you can get inside the process and be a voice in favor of certification and confirming the legitimacy of our elections. It's not a huge time commitment, and it's a great service to your community. Number 4, attend local election board meetings. The name of your election board differs depending on your state. It could be the county canvassing board, the county election board, or something else. A good place to start is looking at your Secretary of State's website, or just Googling the name of your county plus election board or canvassing board. These meetings are usually boring as hell, but monitoring them is the best way to keep an eye on what they're doing and hold them accountable to the public. Specifically, the first county election board meeting after the presidential election could be a good bet as one that you would want to attend, because that's when these local officials have to vote to certify the results usually. And number 5, educate yourself. Check out the CREW report linked below, but also check out electiondeniers.org. There you can see state by state which elected officials are election deniers and how states run their elections. Education is power, and the more that we know and keep an eye on things, the less these people will get away with scurrying around like cockroaches in the dark. And again, please don't forget to vote. Thanks to my Patreon supporters, including my multi-platinum patrons, 𝗬𝗓𝗓𝗏 Lucas, Joshua Coles, Thomas Johnson, Sophia Sams, Anthony Giles, Tay, and Brett Piontek. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. If you'd like ad-free access to all these videos in the future, check out my Patreon today. And if you like this video, you'll also like my video all about our new VP, my current governor, and America's dad, Tim Walz. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.